Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Seth Joyner Show, the video cast. Week 1 is now in the books. The Philadelphia Eagles this week came out with a victory, a 20-25 victory over the New England Patriots. It wasn't easy. It was ugly. They had us sitting on the edge of our seats a little bit. I don't think anybody really expected or thought for 1 minute that the Philadelphia Eagles were going to lose that game. But there were some major concerns about how this game was played, how it was coached, and where this team is headed moving forward. Short week, no rest for the weary. Philadelphia Eagles are on Thursday Night Football here. So literally in 2 days, they're right back at it. They've got the Minnesota Vikings on Thursday Night Football here in Philadelphia at the Link. So let's jump into it. By the way, the second half of the show, Michael Eaves will join me to talk about, the Eagles. Michael Eaves from ESPN will join me to talk about the Eagles game, to break down, what he saw in the game, but also, we'll talk on some hot topics surrounding the rest of the league and what's going on. Aaron Rodgers, 4 plays into the season, done for the season. It's just crazy. All the protection that they give these guys during training camp and the preseason, and you got guys that are dropping like flies. Some guys that are done for the year. A lot of guys on injury reserve. I'll get Michael's take because I think most of you guys know my take. You know how I feel about it. I think that players need to play. They need to galvanize their body. They need to harden their body for the rigors of, a 17-game season. And in my opinion, there's only so much protecting that you can really do. The NFL and professional football and any football for that matter is not a game of protection. It's a game of making sure that you keep moving so that you don't get hurt. But you know that in some ways you are going to get hurt. Now, to our Philadelphia Eagles, listen, I know that the majority of you guys are very, very apprehensive about what you saw. But let me caution you. Let me just caution you a little bit, because the same thing that we saw in Foxborough on Sunday is the same thing that we saw last year in Detroit. The Eagles go in, they're lackluster. And the only reason I think that we're bent out of shape is because we went to the Super Bowl last year, and the expectation is that this football team is right in that wheelhouse again, to be able to chase another Super Bowl. Again, the expectations are high. Let me do a little public service announcement here. This is the Seth Joyner Show, the video cast presented to you by Bet Parks. All right. We expect for this football team to be dominant. We love the roster. We love what Howie's done. We love the talent level on this team. And we expect for this team to just step in and dominate from game one. But listen, the truth of the matter is this football team has not played a football game since, I'm talking about the starters. And I'm talking about the guys that really make it happen. They haven't played a football game in 7 months. And all of a sudden, you just throw them into a regular season game, and we've got somewhat of a problem because they're out of sync. They're late, no timing, no rhythm. And that's from the coaching staff right down to the players that are on the roster. And we'll talk about it as we go. I don't think that you can, talk about the Philadelphia Eagles without first talking about Jalen Hurts. I thought that Jalen, his rhythm was off, his timing was off, and I felt like he got a little frustrated in the game, because early on he was content to take, the check downs to Kenneth Gainwell. He was content to take the 4 or 5 yards that Bill Belichick and his defensive scheme decided that they were just going to give him. But as the game went on, I think he began to get more and more frustrated because, A, he couldn't get started running. The running backs couldn't run. And to make matters worse, against a defensive front with one pure pass rusher, and that's Matthew Judon, he was under pressure and duress all day long. So I think that, he's began to reach, and I don't know whether it was a play call, his read, but I'm more inclined to believe that his frustrations caused him not to systematically go through his progression and instead, try to hit the big shot. Trusting A.J. Brown to try to make a play down the field instead of going through your progression and slowing down your clock and seeing Dallas Goedert streaking across the field all by himself, and he completely missed him. Now, it's the first game. I'm pretty sure that, there's no harsher critic. Most great players are that way. No harsher critic for how he played than he himself when you talk about Jalen Hurts. But if this team is going to get where it needs to go, he's going to have to play better. The offensive coordinator is going to have to potentially call better plays. They're going to have to come up with a remedy for what Bill Belichick put together to stop them. Because everyone's going to look at that blueprint and believe that they can take Jalen away from running, keep him in the pocket against the pass, and frustrate the heck out of him. Now, you have to have the personnel to do that. Not all teams are built equal. Not all team has a defensive mastermind like a Bill Belichick to implement a plan and see it through. But, no less, teams are going to look at that and be like, hey, we can use that to shut down the read option. We can use that scheme to shut down the RPO. But you better have the horses to do it, and you better have the pass rushers to get it done, and you better have the guys on the back end that can actually, cover and disguise to get it done. I think if this truly is a way that defenses can get Jalen Hurts under control, then he's going to have to learn patience. The one thing that I always admired about Tom Brady when I watched him play, and I know some of you guys don't like the fact that I just said that I admire Tom Brady, but let's just be real. Dude's got 7 Super Bowl rings. Nobody has that many. No matter what your take is on him, the thing I admired about him is that he always took what the defense gave him. With him, it was all about first downs, moving the chains, moving down the field, potentially scoring every possession that you have the football, not turning the ball over. Just methodically taking what the defense is giving you. I know that this offense with Jalen Hurts and Devontae Smith and Dallas Goedert and A.J. Brown and the speed of Quez Watkins, I know that they want to get down the field, okay? But sometimes you have to earn the right to get down the field rather than, I should say, believing that, you can just get down the field whenever you want to. How do you do that? You do that by running the ball. You do that by running the ball and being able to run it effectively so that you force defenses to commit an extra guy in the box. When they commit the extra guy in the box and your play action pass creates a one-on-one on each side, now you're more apt to be able to hit the big play downfield. The other thing is when teams get to a place where they have to begin to blitz you because you have somewhat of a lead because you stay aggressive. As the game wanes on, offensive coordinators feel like they have to throw the ball a little more than they really want to try to catch up or to try to keep up. And that's being able to, for the quarterback to be able to identify what the defense is doing, understand pre-snap exactly that they're coming with a blitz or they're running some kind of pressure, and you pick it up via protection. And now you identify your, right away, you identify your matchup, your deep matchup, and you go for it. It's not as easy and as simple as just, okay, we're going to line up on this play and we're going to go deep. Coverage is not going to let you do that all the time. You got to earn that right. And Jalen's got to learn that. But like I said, Tom Brady, take what they give you. Just take what they give you, because if you can sustain 14 play drives, 12 play drives, 10 play drives, and every single time you're scoring a touchdown or you're kicking a field goal, the probability of you winning that game goes up exponentially. But the Eagles, in the second half, well, in the I will say, the third, fourth, fifth, and sixth possessions of the game last week, they punted. They went, what did I say? They went 3 and out for 2 yards, 3 and out for 3 yards, 3 and out for 3 yards, and 3 and out for 9 yards. You can't survive like that punting and going 3 and out that many times in a row. You're just lucky that your defense turned the ball over twice in the first half, one of them for a touchdown, because if they don't do that, it's very highly probable that the Philadelphia Eagles do not win this game last Sunday night in Foxborough. So he's got to learn how to be patient. Brian Johnson's got to learn how to be patient. Nick Sirianni has got to learn how to be patient. They got to be a little more committed in the run game. They got to be a little more diverse in their run game. I like Kenneth Gainwell, and I understand why he's in the position that he's in. I understand why they chose not to sign Miles Sanders to $6 million a year, because of what they saw out of Kenneth Gainwell in the playoffs last year and how he ascended. There's nothing wrong with that. But to feature Kenneth Gainwell in the beginning of the game and not have DeAndre Swift be a part of, your run game, to diversify your run game, I didn't understand that. It was almost like it was, you've got all these great wide receivers and a great tight end, yet you're trying to feature, your third round running back. That really didn't make a whole lot of sense to me. I don't understand how it is, and I'll say it again. I will always say this. I don't understand how you can play 60 minutes of football. The Dallas Goedert could be on the field for 61 or 66 plays, and you only target him once. That makes no sense to me. You're talking about one of the top 3 tight ends in the National Football League, and he got one target in a game. That makes no sense to me. Even if Bill Belichick was trying to take him away, you have to devise something. You got to draw something up in the dirt on the sideline to get this guy involved in your offense. He's that important to opening up things for everybody else. It makes no sense to me. Wow. What did Bill Belichick and the Patriots do to the Philadelphia Eagles? As I said, they really only have, one pass rusher. The Wise kid, I believe number 97, really stepped up in a big way. And it was crazy because the offensive line struggled. Lane Johnson struggled. Jordan Mailata struggled mightily. There was a time or two where I saw Cam Jurgens get knocked on his behind. He struggled. And I think that all of this, in my opinion, is a result of them not playing any football in the preseason. Hence, you have a Nick Sirianni saying, hey, next year we may have to evaluate this. Now, I like that. Some of you guys, they don't need to play. But you know what? What Nick Sirianni realizes is that, we've gotten off to a slow start 2 years in a row. Let's reevaluate this thing. Let me put the notes down. Let's, when we get in training camp next year, let's talk about it. Move on, but let's talk about it, okay? Because what do football players do? They practice football. What do football players do? They play football. And if, these guys are going to do what they have to do, then you got to give them some preseason. You got to give them some, some of that adrenaline so that when you get to week 1, at least, you're feeling it the way that you should be feeling it. You guys have heard me say many, many times before, there's a difference between OTAs and training camp, and a difference between training camp and preseason games, and a difference between preseason game and the regular season game, and a level up of intensity at each level. But then there's also this massive leap, when you go from regular season into the playoffs, and from the playoffs to the Super Bowl. So how is it that you could be in OTA or training camp mode and you just skip preseason and jump into the regular season, and expect for execution and everything to be the way that it should be? In my opinion, it just does not work that way. Okay. After this break, I'm going to come back and I'm going to dive into the defensive side of the ball. Some good things there, some not so good things there, and of course, we're going to dive into the special teams and what they look like on Sunday night. Be back in a sec.
When you open the BetParks app, you're in the zone. Winning is always a rush, but the money is in the moments. It's the confidence and underdogs covering, the tension before a clutch turnover, and the pride of a parlay paying off. It's another chance to win big with all-day action. Plus, win your first $10 bet and get $125 in sports bonus bets. You play for fun, you love to win. You bet. BetParks.
If you understand that success is built on trusted relationships and dependable performance, Mid-Penn Bank is the right bank for you. We're on a mission to prove that the right bankers can make a big difference. We work harder, we get things done, and we're in your corner. With financial centers strategically located throughout the greater Philadelphia region and new locations in central New Jersey, we're ready to bring you the best in commercial and personal banking. Call or visit us today to connect with a professional Mid-Penn banker. Member FDIC. Go Eagles!
Welcome to Bridgeview Partners, where IT and business innovation merge. We're not just another tech company. We're your strategic partner in navigating the ever-evolving digital landscape. Our team of experts tailors cutting-edge solutions to fit your unique needs, and ensuring your success is our top priority. Elevate your business with Bridgeview Partners. Discover the power of partnership and tech innovation today. Contact us now to experience the difference. Bridgeview Partners, where innovation meets excellence.
Welcome back. We're going to jump right back into the show. Before we actually get back and get to the defense, I'm going to jump over here and look at some of you guys' questions here and click you in. We're going to go all the way back to the top. Christy has a question about Dallas Goedert that we'll throw up on the board, once my producer get it up there, but I'm going to go ahead and read it. I'm going to take like 3 or 4 of these, and then we'll jump back into, the defensive side. Christy wants to know, do I think they'll target Dallas Goedert more on Thursday night? I think that Nick Sirianni understands how important Dallas Goedert is to this offense. I think everybody understands that. I think Jalen Hurts understands that. I just feel like Jalen looked flustered. He looked frustrated. He looked uneasy. He looked confused at times. And, this is the thing that I talk about, when I talk about pressure, pressuring young quarterbacks, is because, if you can upset their comfortability, if you can make them uncomfortable in the pocket, if you can make them speed up their clock, speed up their thinking, not going through their progressions the proper way, then you can force them to make mistakes and do things that they don't necessarily want to do. But I find it hard to believe that Dallas Goedert is going to go through another game with only one target. All right, let's jump over to Sean Young right here. Sean says, what's good, Seth? Ugly, sloppy game, but what can we expect with 0 preseason snaps? A win is a win. Style points for the Olympics. You know what, Sean, you're 100% correct. I think, at the end of the day, what does it come down to? You play, like Herm Edwards said, to win the game. When the game is over, no matter how ugly or how bad or how good you actually played, the object is to win the game. Now, I'm big on, what you look like when you're winning and when you're losing, because for me, it's always a precursor to what's coming next. If the Eagles continue playing the way that they played on Sunday, rather, we can expect for them to continue to play that way, But when you start to play at a different level, at the right level, and you play the game the right way, what begins to happen? What begins to happen is that, you expect to play at that level. You know that when you play a certain team, that because you're playing at this level, that they can't compete with you at the level that you're playing at. So you expect to win that football game. It's no different than last Sunday. We expected to win that game. The problem is we didn't play to the standard or to the level that that this football team is capable of playing to. That being said, you know, um, the when you start the season out, because these guys aren't playing a whole lot of football in the preseason, the first 4 games in a lot of ways are really the preseason, for these teams. The only thing you can hope for is to get through these first 4 games, and hope that you're on the upside, the plus 500 side of the first 4 or 5 games that you play. You want to win as many of those games as you possibly can, because teams are going to get better and better, as the season progresses. They're going to get more and more in rhythm. The timing is going to get better. They're going to be more defined on how they're trying to attack you and what it is that they're trying to do. So let's see. Let's jump over here and take one more before we actually get. So Ted Nicholas said, got to read defenses, blitzes, and the whole field. Ted, you're 100% correct. I think that sometimes it's easier said than done. You see quarterbacks that struggle. You look at a guy like Josh Allen. He's clearly not reading the defense. He's clearly not seeing the blitz, and he's clearly not seeing the whole field, unfortunately. So sometimes, no matter how great, how elite, or how good a quarterback really is, there are certain things that transpire on the field with him mentally and psychologically that takes him out of his rhythm of doing things the right way. If you're passing the ball and your progression is left to right, but you see something over on the right, some quarterbacks operate from the standpoint that, I'm going to look over here first. Well, you just killed how the player is actually supposed to operate. You're supposed to operate from left to right. Now, you can get through your progression a lot faster so you can get to the right where you want to look, or your vision, you broaden your vision so you can see whether you can make this big play over here. But the minute you do that when you're supposed to be here, now you're out of character for how the player is supposed to operate and what's supposed to happen with the play. And that's what happens with a lot of these young quarterbacks, is they get just bent out of shape. I'm not defending Jalen. I'm not defending any quarterback. I'm just telling you, it's a lot harder and the game's a lot faster when the bullet's alive. And when you get out of rhythm, it's tough to get back into rhythm. When you get frustrated, it's hard to find that level of not being frustrated and just saying, okay, let me settle into the game. Let me take what the defense is giving me, and let me wait and be patient for my opportunity for the big play down the field. Okay, so let's jump into the defense. I was early on. You had to be pleased with what you saw from the Philadelphia Eagles defense and Sean Desai. I believe it was the first. Let me see. The first 5 possessions. The New England Patriots. They threw an interception for a touchdown, had a fumble recovered, and the Eagles got 3 off of that. Then they went punt, punt, punt. So the first 5 possessions of the game, they got absolutely nothing. And then I believe that Sean Desai got conservative, sitting on a 16-point lead. And the rain stopped. Mac Jones found his rhythm, and they went on a 10-play, 71-yard drive, culminating in a 9-yard touchdown to Hunter Henry. He beat Reed Blankenship on a double move. And then they came back on their last possession of the first half. They went 6 plays, 63 yards, and Kendrick Bourne beat James Bradbury on a slant on a coverage that I'm still trying to figure out what the heck they were doing. They looked like they were a man short to the 3 receiver side. Somebody moved over late to get there, but the type of, off coverage man that James was playing, I mean, he was in a situation where he couldn't win. And you had 3 receivers over to the right of the defense and, 1 receiver to the left, and the safety was on the short side of the field covering the 1 receiver side, where he should have been leaning over to the others, to the right side of the field, to the 3-man side. Just to give you a little breakdown of, exactly what was actually going on. But early on, you saw Sean decide bring some pressures. He came with some 5-man pressures, some 6-man pressures, and they were effective until the Eagles defense got to a place where they became predictable. Those last 2 drives where they actually scored those 2 touchdowns to really get back in the game, in my opinion, what happened was they began to tip their hand a little bit. Mac Jones knew that they couldn't contain this pass rush. And let me tell you something. The baby Rhino, Jalen Carter, outstanding game. Jordan Davis showed vast improvement, not only in the run game, but in the pass rush. Fletcher Cox, I think there's a benefit that he's got these young guys. Even Milton Williams played well. For Fletcher Cox, this is a godsend because, they can spot play him. He doesn't have to play, 50, 60 snaps, and then late in the game, he's in a position where he can give you something like he did in 2 plays in the third or fourth quarter there. But there were so many times where the defense was right there on Mac Jones. And for some reason or another, I know what it was. They were literally one step away from getting there. But they became predictable. And then what wound up happening is, unlike the Eagles, the New England Patriots, they sight adjust their routes. What that means is when the quarterback pre-snap reads a blitz, that means that the wide receiver is going to adjust. He's going to adjust his route, a slant, a quick out, a hitch, so that the quarterback can get the ball out of his hands right now. The Philadelphia Eagles offense doesn't do that. We try to block it up and hit the big play off of max protection down the field. Mac Jones was wheeling and dealing. He was getting that ball out of his hand. At one point, in that the 6th and 7th drive of the game, he was actually 10 for 10 at one point. 10 for 10 passing because he was just picking that defense apart. The Eagles are going to continue to have some problems. I know Nakobe Dean has gone on injured reserve. They've made a couple of moves. But the issue is that they've always been thin at that position. And now that you've got new guys coming in that weren't designated as 53-man roster guys that now you have to bring up and play, how much of your defense, how much of Sean Desai's defense can they really implement with new guys coming in just learning it? This is why you value the position rather than try to piecemeal it by bringing in free agents to plug, different areas. And the middle of the field continues to be a problem. The linebackers can't cover. The safeties struggle in coverage. I think that's one of the reasons why Terrell Edmonds, didn't see a lot of playing time because, he's probably a box safety, a guy, that you can drop in the box and help against the run, but he's a liability against the pass. You had Evans that actually started, and Sidney Brown looks like a kid who is just going to challenge for that other starting position all season long. But there were some problems there. The sight adjustment hurt them because they started playing a little more passively once they got a lead, which I thought was a bad idea. And, the coverage in the middle of the field is going to be a target for teams coming in playing against the Eagles. I mean, listen, Minnesota Vikings just signed TJ Hawkinson to, the biggest tight end contract in the history of the National Football League. I don't know, I think he's a serviceable tight end. I don't see him as that great of a tight end. Only bodes well for Dallas Goedert down the road if they can begin to get him some targets. But you can best believe that teams are going to continue to target in between the numbers and in between the hashes on our safeties and our linebackers until they prove that, not only that they can cover in man, but I seen Nakobe Dean drop into a hook coverage one time. He had a guy that crossed his face and he bit up on the guy crossing the face and he had the in route or the curl route right behind him. Now, I'm like, I know that Nakobe Dean is a smart player and he's seen that play 1,000 times, but you got to pat and read that. You always play from deep to short. He bit the short route, took the cheese and gave up the big one behind it. You want to take that one away and force the quarterback to throw the ball to the one underneath and then rally to the ball and break up, try to get the ball out and make the tackle. But those types of things are going to continue to plague this Philadelphia Eagles team until they step up and become better man-to-man coverage guys, and man-to-man coverage guys for the linebackers, I should say, man-to-man coverage for safeties. Give you a quick case in point. And I think next week what I'm going to do with you guys is I'm going to implement a whiteboard session where I take because I can't take the video, can't use the video here on YouTube against YouTube policy. But what I can do is I can draw the play up on a whiteboard behind me here and then walk you guys through, the technique and why something worked and why something didn't work. But that first touchdown that Hunter Henry beat Reed Blankenship on, they were in man coverage in the red zones, 9-yard touchdown, and Reed was off the ball. And being off the ball in man coverage, a lot of times what you do is you basically give that guy a two-way go. Now, you can play off, but you can't stay off. When the tight end releases, what Reed should have did is he should have came up and eaten up the space and forced just a one-way release. You want to release outside. But because he was off, he got stemmed inside, and Hunter Henry ran an out and up. So on the out route, in the red zone, it's human nature to jump that route right now because you think the quarterback is going there right now. But he's overly aggressive, and when Hunter Henry turns it up, instead of him being a yard inside and a yard behind him, so he's in the window, and there's no window for the quarterback to throw, and he got behind him. And when he got behind him, now the window was wide open. And now you got a guy, a tight end that's 6'5", you're not stopping that play. Now, even though he's 6'5", if he's a yard inside and a yard behind, there's no window there for him to throw the ball into. He's got to throw the perfect pass. Those are the types of things in that play where N'Kobe bit up, on the crossing route. Those are the types of things I like to take to the whiteboard and have you guys and explain to you guys so you can see it and understand why these things, are transpiring the way they are. All right. One more break. And then my good friend from ESPN, Michael Eaves, is going to join us. We're going to break down, a little more of the Philadelphia Eagles here and his thoughts on the team in the first week. And then we'll jump into a little bit of what we've seen around the NFL and some of the things that's going on with the injuries and especially Aaron Rodgers. Whether you like him or not, you got to feel for him. You got to feel for the Jets. I don't know, how they accomplish what they want to accomplish without him, but for some reason or another, Solid believes that they can. What else would he say to his team? Can't tell him the season's over. You got to stay positive. But after this break, we'll be right back.
At Revolution X, we know that fortunes are made in times of uncertainty. Are you selling your investment real estate? Are you interested in deferring your tax with a 1031 exchange? At RevX, we're experts in 1031 exchange planning and the use of passive real estate options using DSTs. Not in the midst of an exchange and want to invest in real estate but don't know where to start? Revolution X has institutional grade real estate options for any size investor right now. Set up a consultation at RevXWealth.com. RevX, defer the tax, maximize the gain. At Mandrecchia Law, we win big personal injury cases, but we always tell our clients up front that those cases almost always hinge on how much insurance coverage people or companies have. At Mandrecchia Law, we don't sell insurance, but we're experts at helping our clients make sure they have the right insurance to protect their businesses and families. Do you have the right insurance? Most people don't. For a consultation, visit mmattorneys.com or call 610-584-0700. Mandrecchia Law, aggressive attorneys who get the job done.
This is Seth Joyner, top analyst for the Birds. I've also analyzed the best auto dealerships, and I drive a Davis Honda.
Fall into savings at Davis Honda. Over 300 cars available. And right now, get rates as low as 0.9% at Davis Honda in Burlington. Plus, you'll get 2 years of free oil changes on every new and used Davis Honda vehicle. See why Davis Honda continues to win outstanding awards for sales and service, including the highest award from Honda, the President's Award. Get to Davis Honda in Burlington.
Fall into savings at Davis Honda. On here. JP Mascaro and Sons is a family-owned, locally operated solid waste service company in business for over 60 years. You've seen the red trucks with the blue elephant that symbolizes strength and reliability. Mascaro is different than other national brands. Like the birds, Philadelphia is home. They'll take care of all your waste removal needs. They have it all: an experienced workforce, state-of-the-art equipment, a cutting-edge recycling center, and their own disposal facilities. Call 888-MASCARO or visit jpmascaro.com. Is this the last one? I got one more. Call 888-MASCARO or visit jpmascaro.com. All right, welcome back to the Seth Joyner Show, the video cast. And right now, I'd like to bring in my guest for the day to help me chop it up for the next 30 minutes. Michael Eaves from ESPN. You can click him in there. Broadcaster, when you guys see this handsome face, you'll know who he is. And Michael, I appreciate your time. Thanks for joining me, man.
No problem, brother. Glad to do it.
Hey, listen, so you last night, I know, was at a Monday night football watch party, and you are up front and center watching what happened with Aaron Rodgers, last night. What was the mood like in the room once he went down with that injury?
Disbelief, right? Because I feel like the entire summer was mostly about Aaron Rodgers going to New York. And all the hoopla and all the expectations of taking this team from a level that they've been sort of stuck in for quite some time. And now they got a quarterback to take them where they all aspire to be, and that's to a Super Bowl contending level. And it's over in one series. Like, that was the huge feeling in the room. And then it goes to sadness, right? I mean, you just feel sorry for the guy. Like, look, you know more than I do that anytime you step on a football field, every snap of the ball could literally mean the end of your season or the end of your career. Like, we accept that as players. Obviously, we accept this as fans. But that doesn't mean you want to see guys go out like that, including a future Hall of Famer, including a guy that had, so much expectation coming into the season. So that's kind of where I still feel today. Like, I kind of look like Peyton Manning when I actually saw what happened and in my gut kind of expected what was going to be a torn Achilles. I was like, damn, man, he's done, and we don't know if he'll ever play again. We do not know if he will ever play again, and that's how we stand today.
When you open the BetParks app, you're in the zone. Winning is always a rush, but the money is in the moments. It's the confidence and underdogs covering, the tension before a clutch turnover, and the pride of a parlay paying off. It's another chance to win big with all-day action. Plus, win your first $10 bet and get $125 in sports bonus bets. You play for fun, you love to win. You bet. BetParks.
If you understand that success
Hey, Seth, not sure if you can hear me, but I can't hear you right now. Nah.
Can you hear me now?
There we go.
Okay. Listen, I apologize to my viewers. I apologize to my guests. We're just working through some technical difficulties. As we're in a new studio, a new setup here. We'll get it right. Michael, I was talking about how fickle and how funny the NFL is because, the power rankings leading into week one had, the 49ers, the Eagles at 1, the 49ers, the Eagles. But when you watch what happened with the 49ers and the Cowboys, all of a sudden, the Eagles might have fallen all the way to 3 or 4 in the power rankings, when they start coming out this week.
I think early on, so much of these rankings are about emotion. Now, granted, like from ESPN power ranking standpoints, the analytics based on what we had last year and the predictive analytics of this year, right? But as it relates to those two teams in particular that you're talking about, especially the Cowboys were impressive. Their defense, defense special teams scored 2 touchdowns. But I thought it was more about the Giants and how bad they looked, right? Because, like, literally the Cowboys that did something that game they'd never done before. They'd never scored 40 points in a shutout. And so was that more about the Giants being just dismal or the Cowboys are really, really good? Problem is, after one game, Seth, we really don't know. Like, we can think, but we don't know. And the same thing, like, with San Francisco, and based on their personnel, you understand why they were one of the teams that should be in the conversation for Super Bowl contenders. And if Christian McCaffrey can have that type of game, that changes the entire dynamic of that offense. And, oh, by the way, the defense is pretty good. Now, I'll say this about Philadelphia. All right, correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't they get 2 new coordinators coming into the season, right? So you can have a full training camp, but that doesn't mean you've got everything worked out by the time you play your first game. So in those situations, you got to find a way to win. And that's what they did. They jumped out to a lead. They kicked 4 field goals. They did have a late fumble in the game by Jalen Hurts that gave the Patriots a chance. But, I watched maybe the last 13 minutes of that game in an airport. I never felt like the Patriots were going to win. I really didn't. That's just my feeling watching it. So I think it may be, I know how Eagles fans are. Sometimes they're looking for a reason to feel some doom. I wouldn't be too quick to jump on these early struggles by Philadelphia because, A, you still won the game, and that's all important. So if you go out there, Seth, with not your best effort on either side of the ball, and you can still win with Jalen Hurts having the stats he had, then, hey, you should feel good about it as opposed to looking for a reason to feel bad.
And I think the Philly fans do feel good about the win. But, I'm in this market. This is what I do. I do Eagles football primarily. But at the end of the day, what winds up happening is, when you set the expectation, you get to the Super Bowl unexpectedly a year ahead. Now everybody's expecting for you to go back and win this year. So when you come out and you kind of flounder through game one, the same way you did with Detroit last year, the expectations are so high. So I guess the best thing is, like you said, they found a way to win in a situation, where they played really bad. But the good thing for the players, because they realized that they didn't play all that well, they got a short week and they get Minnesota coming in here on Thursday Night Football to rectify the situation.
Right. And if you want to use last year as a barometer for certain things, how did the Eagles do against the Vikings week 2 last year? Pretty well, if I remember, because Kirk Cousins had a terrible game. You shut down Justin Jefferson, and they win. So if that's the case, then if I'm the Eagles fan, I feel like, so we got this one. We probably didn't play our best. We still got the W. Now we got a chance to come in against a Vikings team that we played really well against last year, early in the part of the season. So coming out of the weekend, if we're 2-0, we should be exactly where we're supposed to be. We're at 2-0 to start this season. Expectations or not, we played 2 games, we won 2 games, and that's all that should matter coming out of these first 2 weeks.
So let's jump into some more around the league stuff. Obviously, with Aaron Rodgers going down, Robert Saleh, talked about, teams are writing an obituary for his team. And he's, rightfully so, as the head coach of the team, said that Zach Wilson is our guy. Well, he wasn't your guy last year to the tune that you had to go and get Aaron Rodgers and bring him in. You didn't believe that he was the guy. If you did, you wouldn't have made that move. He's got to tell the team that, because Zach Wilson is going to be the guy the rest of the year. Can they overcome losing Aaron Rodgers? And the defense, as good as it is, can it pick that team up when they have the mishaps that's going to happen because of Zach Wilson?
I don't believe so. And I'm only basing that on history and recent history. There's nothing, with all due respect, in Zach Wilson's NFL career that would give you that confidence. Now, look, we've seen other teams with exceptional defenses win Super Bowls with good to average quarterbacks. Not great, Trent Dilfer, Joe Flacco, not great, but they did enough to get their team to the Super Bowl, and their defense basically won those championships in Baltimore. So it can be done, and the Jets' defense is probably that good. But I don't think anyone would say that Zach Wilson is on the level of Joe Flacco or even Trent Dilfer were, right? So if that is the case, then how can you have those same expectations? And here's one interesting thing for me, Seth, and you brought it up. That is what Robert Saleh has to say, right? He has to say it publicly because he has to give confidence to his quarterback, and maybe he has to confirm that to his team. But as a player, if you were in that locker room right now, Seth, would you have confidence in Zach Wilson as a player based on what you've seen from him in the past? Even if you're his teammate, would you have that confidence?
You're right. You're right 100%, because the only thing you have to go on is not necessarily what happened last year. Well, what happened last night, but what happened last year, to your point. Right. I don't know. It's just going to be interesting to watch. Michael, can you tell me what the heck happened to Josh Allen? I mean, here's a guy who was supposed to be the second coming, and all of a sudden he's just regressed at such a rapid rate. How in the world do you throw 3 interceptions and you're supposed to be in the Elite 5 in the National Football League?
And that fumble late off the kind of fumbled snap and ended up giving it up, that was crucial to the Jets winning that game. Here's what I think, Seth. I've met Josh a few times, multiple times actually. He's a big golf fan. I'm a big golfer, and I see him down at Augusta the last 4 or 5 years. And I've talked to him about golf and about football. One thing I do know about him, he's very competitive, and obviously he has a certain level of confidence. And in his career in the NFL so far, he's been able to make so many ridiculous plays, right? Like just athletic plays that we didn't think a lot of quarterbacks could make, whether it's running the ball or throwing the ball. And he sort of has that Brett Favre mentality. He thinks he can make every throw at every crucial moment. And not everyone can. And that's no knock on him in terms of his ability, but it is a knock on his decision-making at certain times of the game that puts his team in a bad position. That was a game that the Bills should have won last night. Everyone in the building knew the Bills should have won that game, including Jets fans. But Josh Allen, and to his credit, he took the blame. He said, this loss is on me, but he put his team in too many bad positions in a game that they never should have been in to begin with. And so it is that bad mix sometimes of extreme athletic ability and overconfidence in that ability. And you sometimes put yourself and your teammates in a bad situation. But he's got I think it's 84 turnovers since 2007. That's the most of any quarterback in the league anytime during that period. Since he came to he's got the most, not 2017, pardon me. The most of any player in the league. That's ridiculous. And it shouldn't happen. But again, they play beyond his turnover sometimes, Seth. They've gone deep in the playoffs because of it at times, and I think he still has that belief. But from a coaching standpoint, sometimes you got to drill that out of certain players to make the right play when it's necessary. And also, a lot of people read the room, understand the situation we have now. Let's not give this team any chance whatsoever to beat us, and that's exactly what happened.
I tell you, it's a delicate balance because I played 1 year with Brett Favre, and I watched from afar Mike Holmgren really struggle to get him to tamper it down. There are some chances that you can take, and there's some chances that you shouldn't take. And at the risk of taking away his pure ability to make plays, to make those tough throws when he's on this trajectory of just, turnover after turnover. What's the balance? How do they find that balance? Because the one thing that the Buffalo Bills cannot do is they cannot run the football. And I think that they rely on Josh Allen and his weapons to do more in the passing game. And they bought into the analytics. Oh, you pass early to get a lead, and then you run late to run the game out. And I think that puts undue pressure on him. But how do they balance that out for him? Do they have to go and develop a running game in order for him to be effective?
I believe so, and history suggests the same thing, right? You can have a really good passing attack, obviously, but if you have a good run game, Seth, that makes your passing game more effective as well, even on play action and RPOs and all that kind of stuff. That just makes your passing game more dynamic. But to your point, it also allows you make fewer mistakes when you can run the ball effectively than when you have to rely on your passing. And also, their best running back is Josh Allen. So why are you putting him in a position so much to get injured because you can't find effective running backs or effective scheme to produce some yards on the ground? I think from a coaching standpoint, then, yeah, you do sort of have to help him find a way to evolve past that. Like, every great player evolves throughout their career. They continue to get better because they fine-tune certain things and they eliminate other things in their game that leads to mistakes. So far, Josh Allen has not been able to eliminate those things. You know, we talk about other quarterbacks that turn the ball over. Dak Prescott's gotten a lot of flack for it. Sometimes you talk about Lamar Jackson putting balls where he shouldn't sometimes. But none of them have as many turnovers as Josh Allen since Josh Allen's been in the league. And, you know, sometimes I think we need to lose sight sometimes too often of what those statistics really mean, because there's no reason the Bill should have lost that game last night.
All right, so let's jump over to Kansas City, just because this has just been on my mind since I watched that game on Thursday night.
Okay.
One, has Veach and Andy Reid, you know, overestimated their ability to give Patrick Mahomes average wide receivers, thinking that he can work magic. Now, obviously, when you have Travis Kelce, that makes all the difference in the world. Without them, you could see the inefficiencies on the offensive side. Even on the defensive side, you got one defensive lineman, that's Chris Jones. And they had to hurry up and sign him to a deal and get him in because they can't afford to go 0-2. Sometimes I believe that GMs, you know, when you have a quarterback like Patrick Mahomes, you feel like that he's the end-all to be-all, but they've got some problems at wide receivers. And, you know, Travis Kelce can help a lot, but he can't help guys catch the ball when the ball is thrown to them rather than to him.
Yeah, I think replacing Tyreek Hill has been either harder than they anticipated, or they didn't realize the overall impact that he had on their offense, I think. And that's long-term. Obviously, last season didn't matter. We're talking long-term there in terms of what they're able to do when, let's say, Travis Kelce's not available. Now what does your offense look like? Because you don't have an effective deep threat at wide receiver, right? I will say this, though. Because they didn't have Travis Kelce and because they didn't have Chris Jones, I give them a little bit of a break. I do. Granted, they're the defending Super Bowl champions. They're at home, blah, 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 blah. But they were prepared not to have Jones. They were not prepared not to have Kelce. And that changes everything they're trying to do offensively. And even Patrick Mahomes, he's a gunslinger if there's ever been one. He's just been maybe the best at it. He made a couple throws and decisions that he probably should not have made based on what they did and did not have. And again, that's part of the evolution of being a quarterback. You have to understand what you have and what you don't. The best of all time of that clearly has been Tom Brady. He understood what he had. He understood what he did not have at certain times, and that's how he started the management of his game. And Patrick Mahomes will probably get there. But I do think from a personnel standpoint, to your point, Seth, is they either lost sight of something or didn't fully understand something in terms of what this team needed for the long term.
And lastly, the week one injury scene. My goodness, you got Aaron Rodgers out for the year. You got J.K. Dobbins out for the year for the third time, and a plethora of players that are week to week and guys that are on injured reserve. This whole theory that we're not going to play our starters in preseason, we're going to wait to get them to the regular season and get them healthy, and then you've got this dearth of, injuries in week one. Is it counterintuitive, or are we really living in this protectionism mode where we wrap guys in bubble wrap and just try to get them to week one, even though you have so many injuries in week one anyway? Why not just play them?
Well, I'm with you with that line of thinking. I understand what you're saying. I'm always of the belief that you cannot prevent or predict injuries. You can't, right? Now, you can get your body in as great a physical shape as you can, but that's not going to stop you from tearing an ACL necessarily, That's not going to stop you from tearing an Achilles, right? I think more than not, by not having guys practice and play as much, I think the level of play in the early part of the season is not as good, right? But I do believe in having my players as healthy as possible once the season starts, because once that first ball is in the air, there are no guarantees of anyone's health. Zero, right? And so I understand when we see these names, it really is, it's about the names. If these guys were second or third string, we wouldn't be even tripping. But it is Aaron Rodgers. It is J.K. Robbins. Like these are bona fide starters, first teamers for their squads, and everyone depended on them. And now they're having for the entire season. There was an offensive lineman towards ACL. Like those things happen, right? But I do believe if I was running a team, I want my guys healthy as possible, as opposed to making sure they got a certain number of reps in live action, taking on hits and things of that nature, because that doesn't prevent injuries either. It just makes you better at tackling.
Well, Michael, man, listen, I know that, our time is all of our most valuable assets, man. And you know what? I'm thrilled to have you on the Seth Joyner Show with me tonight. I appreciate your time and your insights. And I'll be looking for you over on, the mothership, my friend.
See you in a couple hours, 11 o'clock Eastern. I'll be on ESPN Sports Center. I'll see you.
Will do, man. Take care. After this, we'll jump right back into a little bit more of the Eagles. We'll get into some of you guys' questions for the last 5 minutes after these breaks.
When you open the BetParks app, you're in the zone. Winning is always a rush, but the money is in the moments. It's the confidence and underdogs covering, the tension before a clutch turnover, and the pride of a parlay paying off. It's another chance to win big with all-day action. Plus, win your first $10 bet and get $125 in sports bonus bets. You play for fun, you love to win. You bet. BetParks.
If you understand that success is built on trusted relationships and dependable performance, Mid-Penn Bank is the right bank for you. We're on a mission to prove that the right bankers can make a big difference. We work harder, we get things done, and we're in your corner. With financial centers strategically located throughout the greater Philadelphia region and new locations in central New Jersey, we're ready to bring you the best in commercial and personal banking. Call or visit us today to connect with a professional Mid-Penn banker. Member FDIC. Go Eagles!
Welcome to Bridgeview Partners, where IT and business innovation merge. We're not just another tech company. We're your strategic partner in navigating the ever-evolving digital landscape. Our team of experts tailors cutting-edge solutions to fit your unique needs, and ensuring your success is our top priority. Elevate your business with Bridgeview Partners. Discover the power of partnership and tech innovation today. Contact us now to experience the difference. Bridgeview Partners, where innovation meets excellence.
Welcome back. Last segment of the show. We're going to dive into your questions over the next couple of minutes as we wrap up here. This is the Seth Joyner Show, the video cast brought to you by BetParks. I can't end the show without talking about special teams. What an asset Jake Elliott has been for this football team over the years. On Saturday, on Sunday rather, you're talking about, a 33-yard, a 56-yard, 32, excuse me, a 32-yard, a 56-yard, a 48-yard, and a 41-yarder. The 56-yarder was in the rain. And if you don't have that leg, you probably don't win that football game. But what an asset he is. But what a liability the rest of the special teams is, and what kind of improvement they're going to have to make. When Jake Elliott missed that extra point, I think it was the second touchdown that they actually scored, that Devontae Smith scored. Siposs actually mishandled the hold, and that's why he missed. The second punt, I believe it was a 21-yard return on that punt that, made us kind of hold our breath, because we know how dangerous that Jones kid for New England can be. Again, I talked about it last week. Punt coverage, kickoff coverage, there are issues. And the Eagles are going to have to figure out how to fix those issues so that, it's not a liability at this point in time of the season, And like form, by the time they got to the Super Bowl last year, that last punt return turned out to be the Achilles heel that really hurt the Eagles and hurt their chances exponentially for winning that Super Bowl. So somehow, some way, they've got to figure it out. Somehow, some way on defense, they've got to continue to improve. I'm really curious to see on a short week who's going to be your starting 2 linebackers this week. In all probability, we're probably talking about Christian Ellis and Zach Cunningham, but we'll wait and see. I believe Fletcher Cox is a little beat up and banged up. It's just going to be interesting to watch and see how the Eagles navigate this, because the one thing I know about the Philadelphia Eagles, the one thing I know is that what they do is that when they have a bad week, when they experience some adversity, they normally come back the following week and just, set it on fire. Now, is it tougher going from a Sunday night game to a Thursday night game? Absolutely. But guess what? The Minnesota Vikings lost to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at home in their home opener, and they're going to be feeling the heat and feeling the pressure as well. Let's jump over here on the board and grab a couple of questions here, and then we'll wrap up. We're a minute over or so, but guess what? We're going to take some questions anyhow. Down at the bottom, Jonathan Harvey, he chimes in. He wants to talk about, Josh Allen and his growth. His question is, Josh Allen is a grown man and should be able to improve himself. Is Brian Daboll his psychological coach? Josh is not a top 3 quarterback because he plays dumb. Probably, listen, every quarterback has, that coach that creates a comfort level for them. A classic case in point, when Doug Scoville, who was the quarterback's coach of the Philadelphia Eagles when I got here when I was here, and he was Randall Cunningham's mentor in everything. Really, Doug was the only guy that could do anything with Randall. Randall really respected him. Well, Doug passed away in the middle of the season, and Randall really struggled over the next couple of years because he lost his mentor. He lost his guy. Not all players have the mental fortitude, to be able to overcome some of the situations that they go through. I don't know what's going on with Josh Allen. I just know that he's a highly talented, quarterback with all the skill sets in the world. And I think he's got a little bit of little bit of Brett Favre in him. But sometimes that kind of play gets you in more trouble than not. We've certainly seen him make some great throws and make some great plays, but he certainly, at this point in time, leaves us scratching our head more than, wowing us. And in order for, the Buffalo Bills to keep ascending, he's going to have to continue to play better. Let's see. Glenda Lee wants to know, can we mix up the back rotation on Thursday? I think that we have to mix it up. There's no doubt about it. I think that we need to see, a steady diet of guys, like DeAndre Swift and Kenneth Gainwell bouncing in and out of the lineup. Listen, DeAndre Swift just torched us last year, in week 1. I mean, just ran all over us. I think he rushed for about 150 yards and had ripped off a long touchdown. I'm not so sure what's going on, why Kenneth Gainwell is the top guy and why they're trying to push that so much. I do know that the Philadelphia Eagles love to exploit their draft picks. They drafted Kenneth Gainwell. So obviously, they want to look good. They want it to look like they made the right decision in drafting him. And, sometimes maybe that plays a role. But I don't think, you should have 4 able-bodied running backs on your roster, and the lion's share of what you do until you feel like you can't do it anymore goes to Kenneth Gainwell. Let's see. I want to see DeAndre Swift, on some screens. I want to see DeAndre Swift out of the backfield one-on-one against a linebacker or a safety. I want to see DeAndre Swift run the football. I want to line up in 12 personnel. That's 1 back and 2 tight ends. And let's, run some bootleg action. Let's run some let's knuckle up and give these guys an opportunity to establish the run, rather than getting in shotgun and running RPOs and read options all the time. All right. So yes, I'm 100% in agreement with you as far as, how the Eagles should deploy their running backs. Let's make this the last question, but I want to make sure that I find a Eagles question here. You guys can see that in the second half of the show, I kind of jumped over and tried to, give you guys a little bit of everything that was going on in the NFL. And I know that you guys are, Philadelphia Eagles fan, but you know what? Hey, we are we're talking football. The onus will always be on the Philadelphia Eagles, but we also want to know what the heck is going on around the league as well. That's important. So let's go to David Raker. David says the Eagles score almost 35 points this Thursday on offense at least. Well, David, let me tell you something. You're close to my prediction. I'm predicting that the Eagles are going to win this game and move to 2-0. I got them scoring about 32 points. So I like the Eagles to win this game 32-14. We all are aware of Kirk Cousins' primetime record is not good. The Minnesota Vikings has moved off of Dalvin Cook. This Madison kid was not overly productive last week, and Kirk Cousins had to put the ball up 44 times in last week's loss to Tampa Bay. Now, Tampa Bay doesn't have the type of front that we have. Can you imagine how our guys at home in our home opener with the rabid fans at Lincoln Financial Field, and we got Kirk Cousins putting the ball in the air 40 plus times? You're going to get some sacks. He's going to turn it over. And that this defense is going to feast. You just got to figure out a way to find your rhythm and your continuity, and some level of, coordination in your offensive plays so that you can dominate this game. But I like the Eagles' chance. Everyone's talking about the fact that they just played 4 days ago. But like I said earlier, the Minnesota Vikings had to do the same exact thing. And now they're on the road coming into Philadelphia, into the link where they have never had any much success against the Philadelphia Eagles. All right. Well, listen, that's the show for this week. I'd like to thank my partners and all my sponsors. A special shout out to Bet Parks, the presenting sponsor of the Seth Joyner Show, the video cast. And as always, you guys be nice to each other and take care of each other. But most importantly, make sure you love each other. I will see you guys right back here next week, same place, same time, as we break down, hopefully, the Eagles win versus the Minnesota Vikings on Thursday Night Football. Good night.